But in England, he made a lot of contacts, 574, in England, and he was the one involved in the negotiations in London, which led to the Balfour Declaration. And then he became the head of the Zionist movement. He became the first president of the State of Israel. He was the head of the Zionist organization and so on. Now, of course, look at the last paragraph of 574. Wouldn't you expect it? In 1920, he came into conflict with Brandeis. Why would he come in conflict with Brandeis? Well, we can already see. Brandeis was, for Herzl's view, of political Zionism. Weitzman was a cultural Zionist. This is the person leading the Zionist movement after the death of Herzl. Just the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, I don't know any Jewish person you'll ever meet who would say that, or who would know to say that. But you can say it on my, you can cite me as your footnote for that particular point if you want. And he also had a terrible fight in the last paragraph there with Jabotinsky. And Jabotinsky, the British threw him out of Palestine. They weren't willing to live with him. He was too much of a nationalist for them. He was the real heir to Herzl. He founded organizations that became the terrorist organizations, but they weren't terrorists in his time. As I said, Netanyahu's father was his secretary. Well, you can read that for yourself. Here's 1914. Zionism needs living content. We know what that means. Zionism was conceived by its pioneers as a movement wholly depending on mechanical factors. There's a country that happens to be called Palestine, a country without a people, and by the way, it was pretty unpopulated at that time. It was a backboard of the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't popular. A lot of Zionist money went into Palestine, and that attracted a large Arab population as well as a Jewish population. So the Arabs' immigration to Palestine was not kept track of because it came across land borders. The Jewish immigration came in through the seaports, and that was kept track of. And I'm sure there was as much Arab immigration into Palestine. You can imagine what the Middle East is like. If there's a flourishing area with Western capital flowing in, they're going to come. So many Arabs came as Jews. You can look at the censuses of those times. There were, I think, 600,000 Arabs living in the land of Palestine at that time, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica of 1905. And the Jews were a majority, as I told you, in Jerusalem. Nobody knows that, but I think Jerusalem had 70,000 people, 40,000 Jews, 20,000 Muslims, 10,000 Christians. So, you know, that's the way it was. You would never know that from listening to the UN debates. Sounds like the Jews came and stole the land from somebody. So, anyway, let's see if there's anything we can get here. We know that living content will mean, again, the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time. It will have to do with the spirit of Judaism. He's talking about the Uganda situation. When Herzl was still functioning, he's sort of laughing here about the offer the British make to Herzl of Uganda. You see, Herzl wanted to save the Jews at any price. If it meant Uganda, he would go to Uganda. If it meant to Sinai, they later proposed Sinai, he would go to Sinai. It didn't have to be that that would be the permanent place. That was a refuge as a stepping stone to ultimately, hopefully, return to Palestine if it ever became possible. But you see, Herzl already had the British government on his side in 1904 when they made the Uganda proposal to him. I think 1903 maybe. So the same people who made the Uganda proposal to him in 1903 were in the British government in 1917, and then, that's 14 years later, they were in a position to offer Palestine. But Weitzman didn't know what to do with it. the offer they were making. And so we got an equivocating Balfour Declaration that speaks about founding a Jewish homeland in Palestine. It being clearly understood that nothing be done that would alter the rights of the native peoples in Palestine or the Jews living in England. Well, what are you talking? That's like giving with one hand and taking back from the other. Herzl would not have accepted such a document. He wanted a clear charter. He wanted absolute promises. He said it in his speech in the Zionist Congress. Nothing should be done until a clear charter be given. We can't have people going under false promises. The British would have given him a clear charter. I know it, because they offered him clear charter in Uganda. And the Jews refused it at the Zionist Congress, led by people like these cultural Zionists, which is fair enough. I understand where they're coming from. They couldn't understand that there was a tragedy waiting, that they had to get out whatever happened for the time being. So, okay, that's fine. And so they reveled in the fact that Herzl was a jerk and that he couldn't understand Judaism. Yeah, but he understood the Jewish national problem, you see. He may not have understood Judaism in their terms, but he understood the Jewish national problem. Maybe I'll write a book about this. You think I should write a book on this subject? Sure. You think I should? Huh?
Yeah.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough. People hate you because they won't understand what you're talking about. Once again, they haven't read all the text that we've read. You can see the differences here. You can't just say these things out of the blue. People think you're nuts. They just think you're insane. You have to, tease them through these things with texts and stuff, which is why my books turn out to be 1,000 pages, Can't hate someone so much who writes 1,000 pages. You have to figure something to dig through there before you can hate him. You're just going to put him in a pigeonhole. Okay, you can do it, but it'd be really tough to do this book. But maybe I'll think about it if I can. Maybe I'll take it off these tapes or something. Anyway, so have the Turks consented? Have they said yes? He doesn't understand. The Turks are going to lose Palestine. This is 1914, 3 years before it happens. He's laughing at Herzl even here. And when it appeared the Congress had waited in vain for the pleasant news, when after 6 years of work the answer of the Turks turned out not to be yes but no, of course the Turks, okay, they didn't want to give Herzl what he wanted, but at least they listened to him. So this is the history of the mechanical movement of Zionism. Even if the great miracle had occurred and we had obtained the charter in 576,